men lie. Women get top billing on this week's Poundcake podcast, and
they should
get to a brand new Poundcake sports break that happens. I was going to say that happens to you on Wednesdays.
It kind of does.
It happens for you. Yes, he presents it to you, and then you enjoy it. And that's the only result I'll accept. So that's coming up later on. Our own Bill Squire has a show on Saturday night. Mary, have you heard of Bill Squire?
No.
He's been voted Cleveland's favorite male comedian.
Oh.
The name of Cleveland's favorite female comedian escapes me, but come back to me on that. He has been voted numerous times as Cleveland's favorite male comedian, and he's doing a show. I'm sorry?
just once.
Just once?
Yeah.
One time?
Well,
you
when
beat
you're
Mike
going
Polk?
against Mike Polk, and yeah,
Right,
got
and
him
I
once.
love Mike Polk, but how long can this guy hold the top spot? I mean, you know.
For as long as he wants.
Come
As long
on.
as
He's
people
Right.
keep saying we're not Detroit.
Bill Squire does a comedy show based on the classic film with Edward James Olmos about the high school teacher who's getting hassled by tough students. And it's called Stand and Deliver. It happens
That's
on...
not exactly.
I'm sorry,
what
that's
we're
not what it
doing.
is?
No.
Oh.
It's close.
You don't play Lou Diamond Phillips' character in this show?
I mean, there's my own interpretation of it.
If
No,
you've never
what-
seen Bill do an Angel Guzman, you will really enjoy it.
Don't
No,
miss
what it is the audience gives us suggestions at the beginning of the show, and then I have two comedians take those suggestions, those 5 suggestions, and they write excuse me, they spend 5 minutes, or they spend the next hour writing 5 jokes about those topics. And
What happens in the
they go back
interim?
and forth. We just sit there quietly and just, think about our lives. No.
You know what we do? It's
Yeah.
part comedy, it's part rumination. We sit there, we get really introspective.
Just
we
heads
do
down time.
Yeah, a little Q&A.
No, I have other comedians showcasing in between.
I see.
I'll do a set, and then I got some other comedians coming up that are very funny to tell some jokes, and then we close the show with the competition of these guys telling jokes, and it's John Armstrong, who is one of the funniest guys I know. And then Logan Rishaw, who's just an amazing joke writer. He kills it on roasts all the time, and so this is a very good competition for both these guys because they're both very funny.
If you came to Chris McQuanzica in 2019 at the Agora, we did that.
Yeah.
Me and Cody Cooper went against each other. It's a very fun, very challenging thing that's interactive, and I highly recommend it.
Wow. All right. So you've got then you've got like a little panel of comics that take the suggestions and write the jokes, and then you've got other people getting up and performing.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, it starts off with that crowd interaction where we're asking them for suggestions, and we don't just go with topical stuff. It's more of a challenge. So, what was the one you wrote like a chicken sandwich joke or something one time when we did it?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't remember, but like it's because when you take it as serious as Mary does, she's in a panic the whole time.
Well, there's pressure there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you
But
wanna
that's-
do well.
But
Yeah,
that's
you
what makes
wanna-
it so
yeah,
exciting.
for sure.
And the crowd's on your side for you to do well.
Yeah, it's a
so
good time.
Because it's a $1,000 prize.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe $100.
$100.
Yeah.
Oh, so
we're
no
working on
pressure.
getting a sponsor. We'll see.
All right.
If you want to sponsor us, give us $1,000, please.
If you run a standing or a delivering company, you're going to want to hit up Young
you
Bill
go.
Squire.
Hear that, United States Postal Service?
Yeah!
They don't got money to spare.
Money to spare. Whatever happened to that Chad Weaver kid? Remember
Oh.
Chad Weaver?
Yeah, very funny guy.
He was like a 15-year-old or something, but when I was...
Yeah. He doesn't do comedy anymore.
Oh, okay.
Transitioned to non-binary.
Oh, seriously?
And I think they're back in Akron and not sure what they're up to, really.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
They were in Chicago for a while, just kind of doing their thing.
Edgy comedians, no one tells them what they can and can't say. They walk straight on stage, top of their specials sometimes, do 10 solid minutes just slagging off transgender people. Just straight out the gate, just making fun of transgender people. If people on the internet get upset about it, the comedian's always like, bad luck! That's my job. I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm meant to challenge people. If you don't like being challenged, don't watch my shows. What's the matter, guys? Too challenging for you? Oh, yeah, because you know it's been long overdue a challenge? The trans community. Oh, they've had their guard down for too long, if you ask me. They'll all be checking their privilege on the way home now, thanks to you, you brave little cis boy.
You know James DeCastro? Have you ever seen him?
No.
Man, he's funny. I like him a lot. But then I laugh at that, and I also laughed a lot at the Ricky Gervais hour, who that clip from James DeCastro there is a couple years old. Yeah, but the Ricky Gervais hour just dropped, and he's immediately taken flack because he does trans material in the front. Mm-hmm. And I think Ricky Gervais is very funny. I think it's a funny hour.
I watched some of it, and I had some laughs. But
yeah.
Again, it's one of these things where the joke that everybody was freaking out of, like, I heard it, and I was just like, it's one joke that, I don't know. They love making those jokes.
Yeah.
They're not, it's not, there's some funny jokes in that special for sure. But that one, I was just like, that's just a lazy joke to me. Just a lazy joke.
Well, I think of it as topical humor. It is very much of the moment. And what you do with it is reflective of how you feel about the situation. And obviously, Ricky Gervais drills down very deeply into the nothing is off limits thing.
Right.
So
which he explains at the beginning, which I think is kind of I don't know. I didn't love his hour. I feel like if you're, and again, there was some stuff that was funny, and I wasn't really, it didn't pull me in. I didn't finish it. But I think there's ways to talk about this stuff without going up there and be like, we can't talk about anything. I'm so sick of that narrative of comics going up there like,
well,
why can't we talk about what we want? They're just jokes. Just make the jokes.
Oh, you mean explaining or lamenting the state? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
so
sick of that.
I think the subtext is, why can't we joke about whatever we want and not have criticism about it? Yeah, that's kind of the subtext. You can say whatever you want, obviously, but, and listen, nobody could care less than Ricky Gervais about getting criticism, So, he's very wealthy. He does it, that's kind of a running joke.
He mentions it a couple times.
Yeah, well, that's a running joke. He's like, I don't need to do this, and everybody obviously takes it in the spirit in which it was given. But, boy, people were reminding me in the break, I forgot Amber Heard was in Pineapple Express. She's Seth Rogen's high school girlfriend.
Oh, wow.
Remember? Ed Begley Jr. is the dad, and I think Nora Dunn is the mom. Dale was Seth Rogen's dating her, and she's like 17 years old or something.
Man, I don't remember that movie that well.
Because you were high when you watched it. I got it.
No, it wasn't. I was just...
No. Alan, you going to see Halsey at Blossom? I'll tell you what, I love Halsey. I think she's fantastic. I'm not going to see her at Blossom. I thought that she, with all of the health issues...
She's not big enough for, like, Romo Fijo?
Well, I don't know.
It's outdoor. It's summertime.
Yeah, it's next Friday, I think. But I was under the impression that maybe she wasn't even going to be doing these dates because she's been having so many health problems. I wasn't sure if those had been postponed or not. But I am not. I'm not going to that Halsey show. Poundcake is going because he's got himself a giant cardboard sign, and on it, in bright gold spray paint pen, appropriately enough, it says, "I love you, mustard vagina." And he got himself pavilion tickets, dead center, and he's going to hold that up for that Love and Power tour that's coming through.
I was just going to go and buy like a bear hot dog and then see what she does for me. That's all.
A bear hot dog. Yeah. Right.
My sister's taking my niece to that. It'll be her first concert. My niece is
Halsey,
10.
really?
Mm-hmm. I guess my niece is obsessed with Halsey, knows all of her songs, so they're going to go to that. My sister likes the music too, so she's like, win-win. It's your first live concert.
I do like that one song she made called Graveyard. I dig that one. But I don't know. She gets a lot of radio play. I don't know if she's like inappropriate for her songs that don't make the radio. Is she like a dirty singer?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think any dirtier than any other
anything
pop
else that's on
singer. Yeah, I don't know if she's not doing songs like WAP, but
little kids freak out over Bruno Mars, and that's mostly about banging.
Sure,
that's
Gorilla.
True.
That's not the one I was thinking, but sure.
What's the one you're thinking of?
Locked Out of Heaven?
Like any of them.
Your sex takes me to paradise. Your sex takes me to paradise.
What's the one about I don't want to go anywhere all day because I'm going to stay home and crank it?
The lazy song.
Yeah. I want to stay home and crank it.
See, you could tell some.
And he's so tiny too.
He's a little man.
Yeah. That stupid song, like that didn't make any album. That was just a single. That was just something that they just put out there to make a little bit of money, and they're like, all right, thanks, Bruno. What a guy. Like, no one's blasting the lazy song.
I like that song.
Why not, Mary? You're ruining my narrative.
It's fine.
This guy, he's all about narratives. Do not ruin his narrative.
I wouldn't dream of it.
The Cleveland Cavaliers have been named one of the top 25 most innovative sports teams in the world. Number 17 innovative sports teams in the world. There are a lot of sports teams in the world, and one of them right here in Cleveland, Ohio. They're above the Seattle Seahawks and right behind Olympique Lyonnais, which is a French soccer team in League One. And they said that the Cleveland Cavaliers are they're very innovative in a variety of areas. The most of these are soccer teams, by the way, because that's what most of the teams in the world are soccer teams. And only a handful of NBA teams on the list. Sixers, Mavs, Cavaliers, Trailblazers. But listen, any upside, any good news for Cleveland sports is good news for Cleveland sports.
That's a pretty cool list to make.
I think so.
And what are the requirements?
Well, like organizational agility. There's a lot of business speak.
Okay.
But this comes from a business organization,
Yeah.
right? They're like empowering fans to create, manipulate, and share content. Empowering fans to listen to sports or sports-related content. Of course, part of that is the iHeartRadio app.
The Poundcake Sports Break.
The Poundcake Sports Break, that's right. Do you have any Cavaliers content in the sports break today?
No.
It's the off season, so that would make sense.
Still, it would make...
Well, it's the off season for them. There's still NBA going on.
I'm simply saying that on a day where they were named one of the top 25 most innovative teams in the world, there might have been some nod to that in the sports break.
It didn't come up.
That's okay. On the subject of basketball, Steve Kerr has gone viral for his comments. Former Cavalier, former Chicago Bull. Mm-hmm. He's, of course, the coach of the Golden State Warriors, and they're playing the Mavs. Have the Mavs won a game yet?
Yeah, they won last night.
They did.
They won.
So it's 3-1 now.
3-1. I think they were leading by like 30 or 40 at one point. I think they won by about 20.
Well, before the game, he sat in the media room and said he wasn't going to talk about basketball because it was entirely irrelevant based on what happened in Uvalde, Texas. And he went off, as he has done before. Yeah. He and Greg Popovich are two guys who, in the NBA, they do not hold back. They are very, very outspoken about what they think. And Steve Kerr, of course, has a particular connection to this kind of violence because his dad was murdered when he was a freshman in high school. I remember this when Steve Kerr played for the Bulls, they would do little deep dives into players. And he wasn't there for very long, but they kind of resurrected it in that Jordan documentary.
Yeah.
They did a whole sidebar on Steve Kerr, how he was born and raised in Beirut because his dad was the president of the American University of Beirut. And his dad got murdered in the hallway outside his office by a couple of jihadists. And I don't think they ever figured out why. It's just he was an American. They popped him twice in the back of the head outside his office in the hallway. And Steve Kerr was a college freshman at the time. And they ended up like suing the Iranian government or something. And, so Steve Kerr has a very specific connection to that kind of violence.
When are we going to do something? I'm tired. I'm so tired of getting up here and offering condolences to devastated families that are out there. I'm so tired of I'm tired of the moments of silence. Enough. I ask you, Mitch McConnell, I ask all of you senators who refuse to do anything about the violence and school shootings and supermarket shootings, I ask you, are you going to put your own desire for power ahead of the lives of our children and our elderly and our churchgoers? Because that's what it looks like. There's 50 senators who refuse to vote on H.R. 8, which is a background check rule that the House passed a couple of years ago. It's been sitting there for 2 years. They won't vote on it because they want to hold on to their own power. It's pathetic. I've had enough.
Senator Chris Murphy has represented the state of Connecticut for about a decade. I think he probably also has the worst hairpiece in the United States Congress. But he similarly got on the floor and gave a speech.
I'm here on this floor to beg, to literally get down on my hands and knees and beg my colleagues. Find a path forward here. Work with us to find a way to pass laws that make this less likely. I understand my Republican colleagues will not agree to everything that I may support, but by doing something, we at least stop sending this quiet message of endorsement to these killers whose brains are breaking, who see the highest levels of government doing nothing.
I didn't realize until I was I suggested to my wife that maybe she unplug from these constant news updates, because she was really, really getting, as a lot of people were, just getting really, really freaked out by this whole thing. I didn't realize until they kind of had updated the story this morning that everyone who died in one classroom.
Well, that's what I said yesterday.
That he locked himself in a classroom and just proceeded to kill everybody in there.
Well, because you said that yesterday. You were like, how did that, it went from like 5 to, I was like, he probably went into one room, killed the whole room and the teacher and then himself.
2 teachers, 19 kids.
Well, he didn't kill himself. The law enforcement shot him.
Yeah. My boyfriend had MSNBC on last night on repeat too, and it was like,
I didn't want to do that.
Yeah,
I didn't. I was
watched
like, we
a little
already
bit, but
talked about it all day, and it was like on your phones and on.
We're not going to get information that's going to make it better. It's only going to make it worse.
Yeah.
We are 2.5 weeks away, by the way, here in Ohio from Senate Bill 215 taking effect. That means that anybody can walk around with a concealed firearm without needing a license, training, or a background check.
Why is that even a thing?
We're not the only state that's doing that.
I needed a break from violence last night, so I watched hockey.
I went to a fight and a hockey game broke out. By the way, a lot of people pointing out that Donald Trump and Ted Cruz and Greg Abbott, who was the governor of Texas, these guys are all ready to go and speak at the NRA convention, where, ironically, guns are banned. They're banning guns at the NRA event.
But wait a second. Why would they do
I
that?
thought guns made it more safe.
I thought, yeah.
You'd want to ask them. It's like going to a restaurant who has a big sign that says, greatest apple pie in the world. And then you go, do you guys recommend it? Oh, God, no. That stuff's terrible for you. We're not going to eat that. Uvalde, Texas, by the way, Matthew McConaughey's hometown, which I didn't realize. I knew he was from Texas. I didn't know that was his town. So he kind of, people kind of immediately dismiss when celebrities have opinions on things, but it's his hometown.
Did he go to that school?
No, that's a largely Latino school. I mean, it's like 600 kids, I think, and it's largely...
It's grades like 2 through 4
Yeah,
or something.
little kids. And I don't know how old the school is, but I mean, he's from Uvalde, Texas. And so he posted a big thing on social media. It's an epidemic we can control and all that kind of stuff and blah, blah, blah. Which is the worst part about it, that it can be controlled.
I think there are easy solutions. Like gun control, we need to update the laws. Not everybody should have a gun. It's obvious. And one thing that you should, if in order to own a gun, you should have 5 women that sign off on you owning that gun.
What about the women, though?
Women can own guns. They don't do this.
I guess that's true. Yeah, women aren't the mass shooters.
Yeah, women aren't mass
right.
shooters. It's all men.
And if you can't, I don't hate that. If you can't come up with 5 women who trust you enough to have a gun, then you don't.
The point being that as long as they say this guy's not violent, I never had a problem with him. We had an amicable breakup, that kind of thing.
Like I could find 5 women that would say, "I'm okay to own a gun," but could this kid from the shooting do that? I don't think so.
Now, would you have a firearm to their head as they filled out the affidavit?
I wouldn't have one yet because I don't have a gun.
Duh, Alan.
All right.
It's like when Homer buys a gun, he's like, "I'd shoot you if I had my gun." He's like, "Well, you don't."
But I'm angry now.
Oh, 3 days. I'm angry now.
Yeah. Well, listen, you can tell a lot about any country based on what they invest in and based on what their priorities are. And keeping kids safe in this country is not a priority.
Not even close.
And it hasn't been. That's what puts the lie to this extreme pro-life nonsense, because it's never, ever been about protecting kids. Because they don't do anything about gun violence. The child tax credit, that can expire. Who cares? And then just demand that women have babies with no help whatsoever once they're alive. So it's not about protecting kids. I mean, just pretend guns are uteruses. They would regulate them out of existence if that was the case.
A buddy of mine posted on Facebook. He was like, are there any city planners out there that can shape an elementary school in the form of a uterus so that Republicans try to regulate it? It's so messed up, but it was just like one of those things I read, and I was like, damn, dude.
I mean, as of 2020, The leading cause of death for American kids and teenagers is gun violence. Used to be auto fatalities. But over the years and the decades, auto fatalities went way down just because of technological advances and policies put in place. You know, back in the day, all kinds of people were dying on the road. And there were seatbelt laws and cars were made safer and roads were, you know. So it's not like these things are beyond the scope of our abilities.
Yeah, it's just upsetting that there's so many people that just shrug. I mean, like Ted yesterday is like, well, I don't think we need any new laws. It's how people are raised. And it's such a cop-out answer.
I'll tell you what, though.
It's guns.
Well, what was also kind of gross, too, is that, and I don't know who the first person was that did it, some female senator or something was like, tweeted that this kid must have crossed the border illegally because he had a Latino name. They're like, no, this kid's from North Dakota. He came all the way. I mean, he lived in this town. It wasn't like Kyle Rittenhouse where he drove 2 hours just to get in some nonsense.
No, he was born in North Dakota, then moved to Texas.
Moved to Uvalde. But boy, you read up on this kid and you're like, this dude has got some problems. And the first thing he did when he turned 18 was went and bought a couple guns.
Mm-hmm. And armor, too.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where they probably could have flagged him and said, oh, this guy shouldn't have guns.
Well, a lot of states don't have those red flag laws yet. I think Ohio does. New York does. And that's why they were so pissed that they didn't get this dude before he killed all those people in Buffalo.
It should be a federal database.
Because they're like, red flag laws should have gotten this guy.
Should be a federal law, federal database.
So, anywho, I got to take a break. I will have another $1,000 for you to win at 3:30. A chance to go fund yourself. So listen for that keyword. If you want to text here, 35192, right after the break, another pair of tickets. If you want to get to that show with A Day to Remember, that's going to happen at Nautica end of July.
It's the Alan Cox